Tell me your story, man. How'd you get started?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Well, I'm so I'm married 10 years, three kids, 10, 7, and 5, almost 6.
I feel it.
Sorry. Yeah. Yeah, 10, 7, almost 11, 7, and almost 6. Um, life's interesting. Grew up in a small town in Nebraska, wanting to do a lot of different things, but you, you can imagine that it's the same scenario in every school, right? It's just the same scenario, the high school experience of going, what should I really do? I don't really understand what life is about yet. I'm 18 years old. And I haven't really experienced um, what I feel I should experience prior to going, what am I supposed to do for the rest of my life? And I don't even know if that's really the answer. And I I got out of school. I went to a small school in Minneapolis. I thought I was going to be a pastor, and mostly, I think mostly because I had a pretty serious relationship with God, but I also just really enjoyed theology. I enjoyed understanding the why or the what behind the questions. And
And the
as a
motive.
kid, I'd get in trouble all the time because I'd take my dad's drill apart, things like that, or whatever. I was always curious, curious, curious. And growing up in a small town, it's like you got to do the athletic thing, and you know, genetics are genetics, and I was gifted in that space, and so that's what I did. But I had this deep desire to do something different, and I remember sitting down with my school counselor, and I went through like the process questionnaire thing, and filled out all the stuff. She goes, "All right, Nicholas, we got to talk. Um, okay, so I don't know what to do with you because according to your answers, you would be just as happy being an astronaut as you would be mowing lawns." I was like, "Yeah, that 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 makes sense." She's like, "Well, that doesn't." And she goes, "What do you want to do?" I said, "Well, I want to make friends and help." And said, "Okay, well, when you figure that out, come back and talk to me about it." Well, that was 25 years ago, but so I went to school. I figured out very quickly that I was not going to be a pastor. Got into the politics of the church really quickly, and I realized that that was not something that made me thrive. It made me sick, and
Let
not.
me let me interrupt you there because I saw behind the veil of church at a young age. If that's what God is, I don't want any part of it.
Sure.
And that was a big hurdle for me to overcome because for the longest time I equated uh Christians and religious people with God. I see how these people act behind the scenes, and that's not, if that's God, I don't want any part of it. So it took me years to come back, and what changed my life was I actually read the Bible. I
Yeah.
actually read it, and you read the story of Christ. He was doing all the same things that I felt, in the sense that, like, he didn't persecute the sinner. It was the perfect religious people,
Right.
that he went in and was like, "Hey, why are you doing this in my temple?" I was cracking whips
Mhm.
and flipping over tables. And I'm like, you know, I had heard some of those stories growing up, but I never really had them in context. And when I actually read the Bible, that was powerful for me. And then all, like you said, the whys.
Mhm.
Why, why everything. I had to
Wow.
learn everything. And I had a basis of understanding of, what the Bible was and what the Bible meant. And I kept seeing this same story being told over and over again in different ways. And I really couldn't put that together. And what happened for me was, um, what Christ talks about. I had to be reborn. And by reborn, I mean, I had to burn it all to the ground because I had carried a 10-year-old's version of God that I made up when I was 10, I carried that into my late 30s and 40s. I
Yeah.
had never stopped to really think about what is God,
Mm.
because I just had this thing in my mind that this is what it is. And I was like, man, I literally made that up when I was 10 years old. Like that was the opinion that I formed. And then I just went with it. I never
Yep.
stopped to like question that thing.
Yep.
And I had to burn it all to the ground and build it back up on a basis of, um, based on knowledge and, comprehension of what's actually being said. What does God look like? Um, is God sitting up there, answering email prayers when, and why does he respond to some and why does he not respond to others? That doesn't
Right.
make sense, and one of the things I've used in the past in one of my videos is, why is God answering a prayer for a parking spot, but not answering a prayer for a single mom with cancer?
Mm.
Like that didn't make sense to me. And so it wasn't until I got a real true understanding of what in God is and how he works and how he built this place. And then it was like, oh, now I get it.
Mm.
And it changed everything for me in
Yeah.
so many different positive ways. But sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Keep going.
No, I mean, you said so much in there. I think I've explored scarcity mindset quite a bit, and I'd struggled with that. I've struggled with that all my life, scarcity mindset. And the understanding of my relationship with God was that I am a wreck and I need to be perfect. And I didn't understand grace. And I carry that. I struggle with that every day. And that was the issue for me. I was walking around in my life and interacting with, Christians and non-Christians, whatever. The the challenge that I found is the people that were the most honest with me were my friends that were not Christians about what was going on in their lives. And it was from a scarcity mindset. Like I cannot be weak. I cannot be meek at church. I cannot be honest at church because I'll be judged. The things that I'm thinking about are the things that I really want to do. And I know I don't want to, and I don't want to execute on those things, but I do want to do them. And so how do I deal with this? How do I talk about that? But so I came back from Minneapolis and I was really kind of in a huge rut. I just didn't know where I was supposed to go. Um, I was supposed to be a pastor because that's what my church told me I was supposed to do. My dad, it was funny. My dad goes, "You'll never earn any money. You'll be poor all your life." Well, I don't really know if that matters. There was a tug and pull at home and in the community, and so I did the most intelligent thing. I became a metal artist, a sculptor. So coming out of you know this idea that I need to be in this structured space, I just swung the pendulum and I started sculpting. And that's a longer story, but needless to say, I felt like that was touched by God, and I started exploring the side of me that was pretty rebellious. It kind of opened me up into a space of going, I didn't do all of these things in high school. I said no to everything that my buddies wanted to do. I didn't do this. I didn't do that. What am I missing? And so I think I kind of went on that walkabout, the prodigal son journey for quite a while. And then I woke up at about age 30 and I've been kind of all over. I've lived in a bunch of different places. I've worked in a bunch of different places. And I think I'm done. I think I've sown my wild oats. And so I wanted to get married and have kids. But the nexus of all of this for me, what I'm doing right now is I still didn't have an identity and I still didn't understand who I was. And it's not like I feel like I have to have a complete understanding of who I am, but I didn't have a set of values and I didn't have a baseline for myself to go forward. I had a lot of projection. I had a lot of ideas about what I should be doing, but when you're not convicted completely, or at least in my case, when I'm not baseline, rock bottom assumptions, I started getting really good at making people okay with me. And I did that in my marriage. I did that in my vocation, and that turned out to be not the best choice I've ever made in my life. And I quickly slipped back into trying to placate my own demons, trying to make myself okay with myself. And so I, as you're a parent, as you're going through like youth sports and all these different things, you never stop. You're just running, running, running. Changing diapers turns into running kids to baseball practice. And I found myself in a space where I was numbing myself just so I could exist, just so I could be okay with myself.
Right.
And that that made me hit rock bottom about 5 years ago.
When
Yeah.
you say rock bottom, was that the point where you got to where it's like, something's got to give, something's got to change?
Yep.
I'm not sure what it is. Like, what did that look like for you?
Yeah. Um, the I I found that I was incredibly unhappy, and I'm okay being unhappy here. I think that's pretty exploratory. But when my family has to pay for it, uh, that's not okay. And so, I found myself going. There's 19 different opportunities in a given week to have a drink or to whatever, to blow off steam, whatever it was. I just found myself on this perpetual hamster wheel where I was always like, oh yeah, hey, drink a beer. Here's a couple beers. Here's a whatever. And then it was conflict, conflict in my marriage. And I don't want to be in this space with you. I would rather be in a healthy space. So instead of going and trying to dig down deep into that and go, I need to listen to you. I need to have empathy. I need to be open minded. I need to take extreme ownership of what I'm doing here. I'm going to numb myself so I can be around you. And when I tipped the scale towards that, I lost every sensibility that was me. And here I am trying to be the best dad I can be. The what I want to be is the best husband I can be. And I wasn't being I wasn't caring about me. And I remember hearing Jordan Peterson. I'll remember for the rest of my life in my ears. I'm listening to, can't remember which one of his books, but I'm cleaning out the garage. And he says, just treat yourself like someone you love or at least care for. I'm going, holy cow. I've been beating myself into the ground physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. And I'm doing it because I think I'm serving my family, and I am devaluing them, and I'm devaluing their experience of me. I'm not. I'm not good. I'm not in a good spot. And I think it took a few years for me to completely understand that, but I started exploring the idea of what I wanted to do and how I wanted to live and how I wanted to be. The only thing I could think of was pursue the best version of yourself. And the benefit for me in having that baseline is it's never done. It's like I don't retire, right? I don't
Well, it's
retire from
it
that.
to me, um, as long as I was trying to be perfect,
Hmm.
number one, all I was doing was failing every day. So I felt bad for failing and I would beat myself up. And like you said, I treated myself way worse than I treated other people. I would never treat my enemy the way that I thought about
Sure,
myself,
sure.
and for me, the understanding that, you know, I'm not perfect, but I'm willing to try to get better every day.
Yeah,
In some ways were big ways, in some ways are little ways, in some ways are ways that I have to remind myself every single day to don't say this. And just one of the great things about Jordan Peterson is, in all his books, is it's a toolkit. In my personal experience, God blessed me with being an alcoholic. And so going through that process, I was introduced to AA, and the rooms of A and the 12 steps. And the 12 steps are nothing but straight out of the Bible.
Sure.
Um, and it's basically just a checklist version of what Jesus said to do. And so for me, just hearing it, like you said, Jordan Peterson's words, you know, treat yourself like you would treat a good friend, is just the same thing as Jesus said, treat others as you want to be treated,
Mhm.
love others as you want to be loved,
Yeah.
judge others as you want to be judged. It's the golden rule. And sometimes it takes hearing it from somebody else's mouth in a different way for it to click, at least for me. And in my experience, the rooms of AA, NA, all that, pick a whatever,
Sure.
is probably the closest version to an authentic church that you will ever see,
Mm.
in the sense that it's a room full of people being honest about their faults and the things they're struggling with, which is the opposite of church today. That gift, um, which is what I look at my alcoholism now. Now, are there things that I wish that would have never happened that brought me
Sure.
to that point? Of course.
Yeah.
But, you know, the all that stuff brought me to a place of being open, willing, and honest,
Hmm.
and about myself, and
Yeah.
having an honest look at myself in the mirror. And is this who I want to be? Is this who the father I want to be? Is this the husband I want to be? And am I willing to make the changes necessary to become the man that they deserve?
Yep.
And most importantly, not just that they deserve, that I deserve and who God
Yes.
created me to
Yeah.
be.
Hmm.
Because, you know, me working on me is the best thing for them,
Yeah. Yep.
uh, in the big scope of things. And I don't mean that in a selfish way. I mean that in a genuine, me being more patient, me being more kind, me being more caring and loving and less self-centered, are all things that I struggle with on a daily basis, but I
Hmm.
try to be better every day. And I think that's what, you know, the that's what we're called to do.
Yeah.
That's the name of the game,
Yep.
to me.
Yeah.
Um, but so moving forward, um, so you made a decision. Okay, I'm gonna change things. What did that change look like for you?
Well, I think you just touched on it. So what it, what it did is that change exposed me, and it exposed me for what I was not doing for me, to create a value in the lives of the people around me and to create value for myself. And so I got really serious. I started working on a set of values that I felt described me, the place that I wanted to be. And this is so Life Simple is spiritual, mental, physical life, SMPL. And so I said, okay, so if I'm going to do this for me,
Wait, say
I
that
have,
say that one more time.
yeah, Life Simple is so SMPL is spiritual, mental, physical life.
I like it.
And I started out with love because it was directed towards my kids. So spiritual, mental, physical love. But I said, okay, so if I'm going to do this, I'm going all in. I'm burning the boats. And I want to create something for myself that I can adhere to, uh, that is an opportunity every day and that points to something rather than just me getting up and saying, okay, so be the best version of yourself. Because like, what does that even look like?
Right. What does that look like?
Yep. So I started working on a set of values, and then I created this exercise for myself, which I've now uh, actually released into wherever, the ether. Um, but I started out by saying, okay, so these are the things that I value, and I value them on a scale of 1 to 3, like no importance to important. And then the next column, which is the one that exposed me, was how do I uh, how do I emulate this in real life? So if spirituality is highly important to me, so I would rank that a 3. But if I'm honest with myself, I'm like a 1. in emulating it in life, well, then is it really important? What am I doing? And then the third column was a trusted friend of mine. I had him go through and grade me. And that was painful. That was painful because, and I'll send the exercise to you
Yeah,
after this.
we'll put a
But
link in the description.
okay, so the simple thing, I had no idea what the heck I was doing other than simple worked with exactly what I wanted. SMPL, spiritual, mental, physical. The idea that,
That's such a great, not to interrupt you, I do have a habit of doing that, sorry, but that's
oh,
such
it's
a
good.
great analogy to not just to use for the program that you're working, but that's like just keep it simple. We have the natural ability to make things so complex that they get convoluted and
Yeah.
then it turns into this big thing that I don't even know what it is. Like
Yeah.
you said, I just want to be the best version of myself. But what does that actually mean? What does that look like in steps and things I can do today? You know,
Yep.
that helps me. Me saying I'm going to be the best version of Paul today, that doesn't help me with anything, you
It's a
know.
good idea.
But like you said, you know those steps, talking to a friend, having him grade you. Where do you know what do you think about my patience? What do you think about, am I arrogant?
Yep.
Trust me, that's not a fun conversation, but it's one that's necessary to have. I think it's so important to have a clear image of who we are. And
Sure.
then once you have a clear image, then you can get to work. But if I still have this fantasy image of myself that I'm all these things that I'm not,
Hmm.
then how do you even have an honest piece of clay to work with to mold and
Yeah.
shape
Yeah.
and so on?
You're living in a delusion.
Yeah.
And that's crazy to think that, well, it's crazy. I'm using the same words. It is odd to think that we could all be living in a delusion of ourselves. And the truth is we are.
Yeah.
We we've heard it said all the time. We judge each other, or we judge others by their actions, ourselves by our intentions. Well, I meant to be nice to that guy, but I told him to screw off. And and that's that's literally what happened. So I'm going, how do I do this? How do I keep it simple? And for me, that was the spiritual, mental, physical. So the spiritual is either, I don't care what you do, recognize that you're either called to something bigger, there's a bigger thing out there, it's God, it's whatever, but it's also releasing the ego. So you release the ego, that releases an incredible amount of tension in you, because what am I holding on to? I'm holding on to an idea of myself that if someone finds out that I'm not really that person, what are they going to do? Stop loving me? No, they already know that you're not that person.
There you go. You hit the nail on the head right there
And they still
because
love
that,
you.
yeah,
They're still
yeah,
talking to you. They're still in your life. They still call you like, "Hey buddy, what's going on?" And I mean, my wife, holy cow, I'm still living in the same house as my wife in the midst of me just being a complete idiot. And so then releasing the ego, then it goes to the mental. So without the ego, the mind can actually do what it needs to do, which is think and process and create. And then what obeys the mind is the physical. And so that process I go through every day, every day, every day. And it now it becomes a habit. So I'm going, let go of the ego, man. What's your mind need to do? Work, okay. And then my body can go and appropriately move through situations. And obviously, I don't get it right every day, or every time, or most of the time, fail about 75 times a day. But the reality is, the structure was built so that I could do it for me, so that I could be of value to my family, and also that I could pass that ease of use to my children, my wife, and the people around me that I love. It,
absolutely, man. It's so critical to just be aware, be aware of our words, our actions, and what we're doing. Because for me, for years, I just reacted in life. I reacted without any thought. It was just a natural reaction. And if you pushed back, I was like, well, that's my truth. you know,
yeah,
but I never put thought into it. And, now if something happens that, upsets me or makes me angry, I have the ability to step back, pump the
we
brakes.
take care of the things that take care of us. right? We clean our room, we do the dishes, we do the laundry, we do these things because they're worth it, because you're worth it. And you want to have an enjoyable life. But instead I said, because I said so, the
Yeah.
whatever. And so I catch myself a lot going, okay, back up. Hey, buddy, I'm sorry. I jumped on that because I'm frustrated, because I'm annoyed. And I've asked you 7 times to do this. And the last time was the last straw. The truth is, that's not a real thing. And I need to be humbled in that space and realize that this whole thing that we're doing together is way bigger than me. It's way bigger than you. So let's come together so that we can do this properly, because I want you in 25 years or whenever it is to have the same conversation with your kid. I want you to break the legacy of brokenness that's in my family.
Yeah. Absolutely. I agree wholeheartedly. For me, if we took this a step further, or in a sidestep into relationships, one of the most powerful analogies for me is the old burn the boats, because the reality is, in my relationship, um, once we burned the boats, it stopped being about, who's going to win the argument. Did you get this one or did I get this one? The reality is she got almost all of them, because I never win. But even if you win, you lose.
Yeah,
You're
no one wins.
right. Even if you're in that combative relationship where it's, you're going to see it my way, you're never going to get very far, because again, even if you win, you lose. And so that old analogy, the burn the boats, puts us from being, fighting against each other to fighting against the same, or fighting to achieve the same goal, or get past
Yeah.
whatever it is. And whatever that obstruction, or whatever it may be in life, and it can be as simple as any kind of argument, being able to remove that subject and put it out here and say, okay, uh, we're going to attack this thing together so we can get past it and move forward from it, is one of those things that's just like a muscle. The more you do it, the easier it gets, the more natural it is. But the first few times, you have to stop in the middle of the argument and go, hey, wait a minute, we're on the same team here. What are we doing?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
that's,
Or are we not?
yeah,
Because it's okay if you have a different opinion of this. And so
right.
I really want to understand what that means to you. I had several couples and individuals go through this exercise before I started this. The value code is what I call it. But I had several people go through it before I, said, okay, I'm releasing this, you know, whatever that means. I still don't even understand how this whole thing works. It's just kind of funny to me. I built it for myself, and once I got through it, I asked several people to go through it, and I had a couple who's been married for 30 years could walk through it together. And by all metrics, they're really happy. And I did about a 90-minute exit interview with them, and they said, "Here's the crazy part: we had several conversations through this exercise that we've never had, and I talk about it. You're probably going to have arguments. There's things that are going to come up that you disagree with. It's okay. Walk away, come back with open mindedness and compassion and empathy." And she said that there was one specific thing that her husband had done since like year 5, and she didn't like it, but she just chalked it up to, hey, that's how my husband is. And when he explained to her why he did it, she cried. And she goes, that's not my favorite thing that he does, because of the reasoning behind it. And man, I'm almost going to tear up. How many times does that happen? And for years. And so you have this compounding stack of year after year after year after year resentment, when you think that it's just been, oh, we've just moved past it. And you haven't. because the reality is it's not about you not loading the dishwasher correctly. It's about something completely different.
Right. Well, that's I mean, the fourth step of in the 12-step program is resentments and writing down every resentment you have and then going through the process of identifying the emotions that are associated with that resentment, whether it be
Mhm.
anger, fear, whatever it may be. And then the most important one, what role did I play?
Yeah.
Because I might have a resentment over the dishes in the dishwasher, but the reality is that resentment started 4 years ago because of something else that's just carried on over and over. And just that's it's so huge, just understanding those resentments and being able to communicate, and you both, I think both people have to be in that place to be open to understanding.
Yes.
And when you are, man, it changes the dynamics in such a positive way.
Hmm.
But that again, everything is a process. It is not always going to be perfect. And there are days when me and my wife have arguments. I mean that, and we don't burn boats. It's a who's going to win this. We're not perfect, but we're both very aware to of what the big picture is. And even if we screw up, we clean it up later on.
Sure.
And just that awareness. But it's so true what you said, because 99% of argument, I won't say 99%, a lot of arguments that happen have nothing to do with the action in the moment and what's going
Yeah.
on. It's something totally different that happened earlier in the day or the week before, the month before, the year before.
Yeah. I completely agree with that. And that's the beauty of life. Like I don't enjoy it. Maybe I do. I love conflict because conflict really exposes me. It exposes me for my instincts. It exposes me for the bad habits that I have in communication. And like I have a theory that you can't love greatly until you've hurt deeply because you understand that spectrum. And that's the beautiful part about marriage or a lifelong partnership is that you experience the ups and downs, and the lows magnify the highs, and
Yeah.
and it becomes big love. It becomes this massive spectrum. And so when conflict happens, I don't enjoy it while it's going on, I don't think, but man, in retrospect, when you're coming on the other side of it, you're going, like, I love the idea that you guys record your arguments. It's so cool because I would watch the game tape, like, oh, that's where
Yeah.
I decided that she was an idiot.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I'm telling you, I've had a few friends that have called me that had some conflict. And if it was one of those things where it's like, we keep arguing about this, I'm like, I found the solution and it's worked. It's
That's
worked. I
amazing.
have yet to have somebody say it didn't work, but, nothing is cookie cutter and nothing works for everybody, but
Sure.
it definitely worked for us. And again, just that awareness, not just the awareness of the camera, but the willingness to actually listen, because I wasn't willing to do that before because I already had made up my mind that this is the way this needs to be resolved. And, I wasn't even aware of it. I wasn't even aware that I was being closed minded
Right.
until, we put ourselves in that situation. And it really did, man. It changed something. So again, the lesson there is, try to do that without the cameras on. Try to have that same openness and willingness to listen and communicate. And what is she trying to say? What is she really? What's behind this? And how can we attack this together? And that's the
Yeah.
goal of everything in our relationship.
I love it. And that's why I think with Life Simple for me, it is simple and it has to be simple for me because I don't do complicated very well. I do complicated well when I'm alone, but in live scenarios, when I'm interacting with people, I'm fairly simple minded. And I had to also go, are you too proud that you're going to say that you're not going to use a formula that works? Like, just use the dang formula.
Yeah.
It works. Start with humility, start with losing your ego, then go into your mind and say, what is really happening here? and then let your body do what it's designed to do.
Well, when it comes to resentments and, forgiveness and all that, I'll tell you one of my favorite quotes, and I found this a while back, and it says, "Why forgiveness is hard. To forgive someone is to absorb the cost. You're not
Mm,
going to make them pay for it. You're going to pay for it yourself. And on some level, you're going to absorb the pain they owe you."
yeah.
And that's so profound to me because it's just, but this is what it is. This is what it is. If you want to forgive somebody, you're going to have to absorb some of the cost of that pain. And it's going to cost you something.
Yeah.
But if I'm not aware of it, if if it's just a resentment that lingers and unforgiveness that lingers, because the two are kind of fall into the same category, for me at least, that was really powerful. And just the understanding that, hey, this is going to cost me something. Am I willing to pay that price?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
in order to heal this relationship and heal this thing that we've got, whatever it's over, is it worth it to me? Am I willing to write that check for and understand that, you know what, there's going to be some, I'm not going to get reconciliation on that, and that's going to cost
Yeah.
me X number of pain, whatever you want to put in
Yeah.
there. And yeah, it's worth it to me.
Mhm.
And so just having it black and white like that was powerful for me.
Yeah. I love that. And they get to cash the check of redemption.
Yeah,
You got to give it away. Gosh. Yeah.
I'm stealing that.
You should take it. It's all truth is God's truth, man. I don't have anything. I just have the fumbling around in the darkness of my experience, and then being able to look at it on the other side and say, well, what are the lessons that I've learned? Let's try not to do that again.
Yeah,
Spiraling upward. I've stolen that from 8 people. I don't even know, those moments in life where I look and I say, well, what is this going to cost me? Everything, everything. And it's worth it.
absolutely. And the old saying goes, you're already all in.
Mm,
You're already all in. The outcome is the same for everybody walking on this earth,
mm-hmm.
at the end.
Yeah.
So we're all in. Are you going to be, how's the best way to say it? Do I have, is it worth it to me to go after and pursue life in a way where I have the best relationships possible, the most meaningful relationships I can have? And if that's what I really want, then it's going to take me working on me understanding me understanding my personality, my reactions, my traits, the things that I do, the habits that I've created, understanding those things and working on those things, like you're talking about with the Life Simple process, is huge. Because I read this study, and I'm sorry, it was a book that this nurse did, and she did a study of all these patients that she had in hospice. So they were all on their deathbeds. And she asked them, if there's anything in your life that you could change, what would it be? And the answers were not all over the place. The answers were two things that kept coming up over and over and over again. And it was, I wish I would have been better at my relationships, or been better in my relationships. I wish I would have invested more in my relationships. And it's, I wish I would have gone after, the goals that I had in life, and I didn't let
Yeah.
fear stop me. And, that is wild, because those two things, if you talk to most people, um, they don't even think about it. Our
Yep.
relationships just are what they are. Am I actively investing in them? Am I actively trying to do something to improve those relationships? Most people don't think about it. They're
Yep.
not even having that train of thought. And so, and then the other side is goals. One thing for me, um, that is my biggest fear, is laying on my deathbed saying, I wish I would have. I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have done that. I wish I would have, you know, went after whatever. But, fear paralyzes people.
Yeah.
Fear keeps fear of failure. And my dad gave me a golden nugget on this one day. I said, I just have a fear of failure, and so I self-sabotage. And my dad laughed at me and he said, "You don't have a fear of failure. You have a fear of success."
Oh, yeah. Too.
And I was like, never thought about it that way, but you're not wrong,
Yep. Yep.
and that was
Because I
that
think you
was
look at that and you go, I don't, like, I want to be the best version of myself. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what success looks like. I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to value when I get to that space. That's a scary space. Do I want that responsibility, or do I want to be comfortable? Once I get to that, once I get to a functioning level of whatever version of it is, right now I can't handle that. If that were just dumped on me in 10 years, if that were dumped on me, I think my mind would, I wouldn't recognize my life. I wouldn't recognize who was inside of my head because of the things that you get to go through in your journey towards that. And so the fear of success thing is huge because right now I don't have the capacity for the places that I want to be at. I'm learning that
well,
capacity.
you know, do you know who Jim Rohn is?
Yeah. Yeah.
Jim Rohn's one of my favorite speakers, and he had a bit that he would talk about, and he said, my mentor told me the best thing I can do for myself is go out and earn $1 million. And he said, and I'm paraphrasing here and I'm going to butcher how well he said it, but basically what he broke it down to was go out and earn $1 million, not so that you have $1 million, but who you'll become in the process of
Mm-hmm.
making that happen.
Yeah.
Because the money becomes insignificant and you could lose it all tomorrow. And he did, and did it again after that, because he said, I became a different person in that process. It wasn't about the money, it was about making myself the kind of person that was attractive enough to create situations that would give me the ability to earn that kind of money.
Love
And
it.
so it goes back to I working on me. I'm investing in me and making myself more attractive. And that process will open the doors to, anything. Katie bar the door, the sky's the limit if I'm willing to do that work. And that,
Yeah.
I'd listened to him tell that story, I don't know how many times. And it probably wasn't until like the 30th time where it clicked in my brain really what he was trying to say. And, I paraphrased it there, but that was the deal. It's who you become in the process. That is the key.
Mm-hmm.
And we've all heard it 1,000 times. Any goal that you set for yourself, when you get there and you achieve it, there's a letdown
Yeah.
afterwards. It's
Absolutely.
like kind of, where do I go from here? What's my next goal? What, so on and so forth. But it's not about the goal, it's about the process. I really appreciate you doing this, and we'll definitely do it again. Give everybody your socials, and I'll
Yeah.
post links to Life Simple in the
Sure.
comments.
Yeah.
But tell everybody what your handles are and where you're at.
Yeah. TikTok and Instagram is Life Simple. So that's LIFE SMPL. And then I do have a stand store on Instagram. You can see the exercises. I give a procrastination exercise or a little course, a freebie on the stand store that I created for myself again. And I started sharing it with people and it was working for them. To just identify where their pain points are, especially in the procrastination space. Not just that you procrastinate, but why. So it kind of helps you go back into your history and look at what things happened in your childhood and your early development and all these different things that can cause you to have what we just talked about, fear of success, which is most of
Absolutely.
procrastination. well, not most, but it's a lot, has a lot to do with that. And so, yeah, so those are the two spots right now. Obviously, I'll give you the links for the stand store. I think you can grab that just online. But man, I really appreciate the conversation today. I really enjoyed hearing about you and your story, and this path that you're on. It's so cool that you're out here doing this. I love it.
It is, man, and we definitely gotta. There's more to dig into, more to talk about.
Amen.
Really appreciate you coming on, and wish you all the success that you have coming to you. I have no doubt, and we will do our part to try to push that out, and so everybody can see it, man. Just keep doing what you're doing, and Katie bar the door. The sky is the limit, as I
Let's
say
go.
way too many times.